The Crown Attorney said that McLeod outright lied to the detective in their closing argument. This is part 3 of my day 3 recap of the closing arguments in the 2018 Team Canada essay trial. Make sure you follow so you don't miss anything as the trial wraps up. Start off their closing argument, the Crown said their position is, quote, EM did not voluntarily agree to the charged sexual acts that took place that night. She then said if someone participates in sexual activity because of fear, there is no voluntary agreement. She then said that EM did not make a, quote, affirmative voluntary choice to engage in sexual activity. Whether or not she had the capacity to choose is besides the point. Quote, it is our position that she did not choose. She did not make an affirmative voluntary choice and therefore she did not consent. She then said the men on trial cannot say that they had mistaken belief EM consented. There is, quote, no evidence. EM communicated, quote, specific contemporaneous consent to the acts she engaged in, and none of them took reasonable steps, quote, in the moment to confirm her consent. She then said that a lot of the evidence amounts to, quote, a series of beliefs and assumptions that are rooted in myths and stereotypes. She then asked the judge to reject the men's version of EM, quote, begging for it. She then said, quote, it was at the very least reckless for these men to engage in spontaneous group sexual activity with a stranger in the absence of any sincere discussions with EM about her desires and limits. She then said that even though each of the men is charged separately, this was a group sexual encounter and the judge should look at the case as, quote, as bigger than its sum of its parts. She said that the case rests on one pivotal point, and that is that Michael McLeod was the one who invited his teammates to room 209 to engage in sexual activity with EM, quote, without any belief that she was interested in that and knowing that she had not asked for that. She said that that will shape how the judge should understand the rest of the night and the evidence of EM. She then also said that defense lawyers have suggested it was EM who was, quote, up for a wild night, but she then reminded the judge that, quote, suggestions made by lawyers are not evidence. The Crown then said that it was either EM or McLeod who instigated the sexual acts, and then she said that there's no evidence that EM asked for the men to come to the room or told McLeod to invite them to the room. The Crown said that she'll give 5 examples of how the judge can be sure it was McLeod, not EM, who wanted the group sex on that night in 2018. She said the first example is McLeod didn't tell London's police officer that it was EM who instigated the group sex, quote, he outright lies to Detective Newton. She then said that McLeod didn't say it was EM who wanted group sex because he, quote, hadn't thought up that false detail yet. McLeod's story was that the men were, quote, shocked because EM was unexpectedly asking for sex, that she was the one who turned the encounter sexual, and the men were, quote, reluctantly and uncomfortably took part, paints the men in the best light and EM in the worst light. Quote, he lies repeatedly about the text messages that he sent or didn't send that night. He then played the recording of McLeod being interviewed by the police detective, and then McLeod says that he doesn't know why the men are in the room, maybe they were there for pizza. She then said there's, quote, no versions of events in which it could be possibly true that he didn't know that people were there for sexual activity because he's the one who invited the men into the room for sexual activity. She then told the judge that she can and should use the lies that McLeod told not only as evidence of his lack of credibility and reliability, but also as, quote, circumstantial evidence of guilt. The Crown laid out the other reasons for dismissal, but I don't have time to cover them in this video, so go check them out on CBC's daily live updates.